Alrighty, it is the first week of September. That means it is time to go over August numbers. I'm an open book. We're gonna go into Inventory Lab. I'm gonna take you to my computer screen and show you my profit and loss statement. It was the best sales month I've ever had, but as you'll see, that doesn't always mean the best profit. Okay, I'm gonna share with you why. Also, towards the end of this, after we go over the numbers, I'm gonna share with you how I run my business, like online arbitrage versus RA, what brands I sell, and just some other tidbits I think you're gonna find to be very valuable. So with that said, let's dive into the profit and loss statement for the month of August. All right, got the computer open in front of me, Inventory Lab, the profit and loss report. I'll take you through the meat and potatoes and kind of walk you through it, and then we'll talk about my fixed expenses, variable expenses, and just kind of my numbers as a whole as we continue along this journey. All right, so first things first, in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see sales. Total sales, $48,301.92 for August. So that was my highest sales month ever. We'll talk about that in a minute, okay? Right under that, a lot of refunds. I had an issue with a listing where there was a discrepancy. The title and the images didn't match up, and I wanted to kind of test the waters. Sold a ton of them, but then a lot got returned, which now I've kind of learned. I tried updating the pictures, but it still didn't make a difference. So I just said, hey, I'm done with this. It's not worth it risking either negative reviews or just the headache of constant returns as well. There's too much opportunity to get stuck on one listing. Then just some general stuff, reimbursements, shipping credits. Then we get into the expenses. Cost of goods sold, $26,320.28. That number is how much I spent on inventory of items that sold in the month of August. So it's not everything that I bought in August, it's everything that sold in August, the cost of what I paid for those goods. So a little over 26,000. Then you have Amazon fees. I always say this just as a general safe rule of thumb, Amazon fees are always gonna be about a third of your sale price. Then we get down here to storage fees, removal, order fees, stuff like that, minuscule stuff. Inbound shipping fees, I'll point out $404. That's how much I pay to send all of my inventory into Amazon fulfillment centers. Just a part of the game, you factor it in when you make decisions, but just to give you some context of how much goes in. Manufacturer shipping label costs, these are items that I did FBM. I did quite a bit in this past month, for me at least, $274. I always buy my shipping labels through Amazon, so there's proof of purchase and tracking. And usually I think it's as cheap as you can get elsewhere in general. And then just scrolling down, basically you can see here in the bottom left, total net profit, $6,669.99. So just call it $7,000 as like a round number. Maybe that's too much of a jump, but anyway, that's what it is. And this factors in all of my softwares, my tools, etc. So even after that stuff, that's what I'm making. It's not like that's my number and then I have to subtract other things, okay? That's truly the profit. This was the best month I've ever had in terms of sales. So if you were an outsider looking in, you would say, wow, he's continuing to grow little by little by little, good for him. But that's not actually the real picture here. And something that I've always wanted to really be transparent about and tell people also to open their eyes to, a couple of things about why sales don't paint an accurate picture. For one, if you're doing RA, retail arbitrage, and somebody else does online arbitrage, the margins are drastically different. So your sales could be way less and you could still be making as much, if not more, with literally like half the sales. But don't compare yourself to others. There's so many different ways to sell on Amazon and everyone has different metrics. It's irrelevant comparing them to anything but your own. My profit margin after my expenses and everything are about 14 to 15% for the month. I'd really like to be closer to 18 to 20%. One of the reasons my sales were up so high and my profit margin was low was because I got basically a cease and desist letter from a law firm representing a brand. They said, sell through your product, we'll leave you alone type of thing. So I sold things at a drastically discounted price because I had hundreds of units. So one, it pumped up my sales numbers, and two, it hurt my profit margin. Those things are gonna happen. I'm not tripping out about it, but you know, you have to know your numbers, and I'm just sharing those with you. And speaking of, I want to now share with you my fixed expenses. And the reason I think that's really important is because whether I sell one item or a million, this is what I take to run my business, okay? So $40, $39.99 pro Amazon seller account, necessity. Inventory Lab, $49 a month. Helps create shipments, comes with Scoutify 2, the premier scanning app, allows me to pull reports like this profit and loss. Keepa, non-negotiable, just under 20 bucks a month. I've been dabbling with Seller Amp. I don't think I'm using it to its fullest potential. It's a nice little tool that I do use when I'm doing sourcing on my computer. It's like 17 bucks a month, so at this point it's well worth it. Biggest savings, I just switched my REPRICER from Seller Snap, which was 500 bucks a month, to Profit Protector Pro for $65 a month, and honestly, so far so good. So I'm pretty much operating on the bare bones in my opinion, and that totals to just over $190 a month. So I think that's very reasonable, and again, I'm doing 50K a month in sales basically, and that shows you don't need all the fancy tools and gadgets. Do the essentials, get really good at them, and then for whatever you decide, there's a lot of other tools that you could benefit if used properly, but you don't need them to at least get to this level. And then another 151 I spent on supplies, poly bags, boxes, things of that nature, rubber bands for shoe boxes. So that's a variable expense. That's gonna change every month. I find it to be probably on average $75 a month. This was a heavy supply month for me. Just wanted to fill you in on those. I think it's important to know because those are kind of what it takes to run this business. And combined, even with a heavy supply month and my fixed expenses, we're talking $340, give or take. All right, so now that I've shared my numbers with you, let me share with you my business. And it's constantly evolving and changing, but where I am today. So as far as sourcing goes, I would say I'm 90% online arbitrage, 10% retail arbitrage. And it wasn't long ago, I was like 95% retail arbitrage, but I moved a couple months ago and I didn't want to be dependent on the geography. My vision has always been to be able to do this anywhere in the world, right? Something's just mentally nice and freeing about that. And so I wanted to scale. And so I've gone really heavy in OA. As far as categories are concerned, vitamins and supplements is my number one. I just went super, super deep in it. And there's multi-packs, which I like. They're replenishable by nature. So when somebody consumes their bottle of vitamins or pills or whatever, they typically buy more of them. There's no real moving parts. Nothing's going to be broken. There's no busted battery or a widget where something's, wrong with it. So very, very minimal returns as well. So that's my number one category. I've also actually done really good in arts and crafts, believe it or not. It's something I started with when I was a newbie. I was allowed to sell that from day one, and I just dove so deep into what I was allowed to sell that naturally I'm able to continue that progression. I'm starting to get into beauty. The reason I like beauty a lot, there's so many brands, they're very small and light items. And again, no moving parts, minimal returns. And once they're consumed or used, people buy more of them. And then something I just started getting into is apparel. And to be honest, I've strayed away from apparel for a while. Higher return rate, naturally if things don't fit or whatever the case may be. But something that I've come to realize is that so many shoes have variations. So like, if you're not familiar with this, there's a parent listing, Nike Air Max, and there might be 100 different combinations, 10 different sizes, 10 different colors, right? And so if you know how to figure out and read the Keepa chart to determine which variations are worthwhile, it's gonna give you such a huge advantage because a lot of people don't know how to read the variations properly or even want to go through that process of learning. So that's something that I am willing to do and that I do understand, and I've had a lot of success with it. So that's something I'm starting to really just scratch the surface in and go super heavy in is apparel, especially sneakers like Adidas and Nike. And to piggyback off of that, I want to say just as a whole lesson that I've really learned is that your listings only have so much life to be sold. Most people are reverse stocking or storefront stocking, reverse sourcing, looking at different sellers' catalogs and literally just stealing their listings and finding them themselves. It's just part of the game. But if you can create a moat or barrier of entry to your listings, you're gonna have less competition, be able to sell it for a higher price, and it's going to be great for your long-term game. So I just gave you examples of variations, okay? The average brand new Amazon seller doesn't know how to read those properly. I've also gone into out of stock items and items with no sales rank. Again, it takes a little bit more skill. It's not necessarily hard, but it's extra steps that an everyday seller doesn't do. That is a great way to differentiate yourself from the competition, giving your products a longer shelf life to be replenishable and to charge a premium. As far as what I spend every month, my current goal is $40,000 a month. I just took an Amazon loan, so I don't have capital as an excuse anymore. And so in my head, if I spend $40,000 a month, I strive for 30% return on investment. So if I spend $40K a month, 30% return on investment, that's $12,000 of profit a month. Now, if I spend $40,000, it doesn't mean it all comes back to me next month. But if I do that on a continuous basis, it is going to even out. And my personal goal, by the way, right now is to consistently be making $10,000 profit per month. So if I strive for $12,000 profit per month and things happen and get in the way, I still build a little bit of cushion so that my goals are achievable. Now, it's not gonna happen overnight, but I am going to try to stick with 40K a month, give or take, for the next several months and see how everything falls into place. I used to just spend, when I was sourcing, and whatever I did, and it was foolish. You wanna set yourself up for success, take out the guesswork, and keep track of your spending. It's such a simple thing, and it greatly affects your business. So I highly, highly recommend that. As far as sourcing goes, as far as like time allotted, I've tried a variety of things. I'm a morning person. I do my best work in the morning. I try to create as little friction as possible to get started on my deep work, the most meaningful and prioritized work of the day. And so I find that sourcing from like 6 to 9 a.m. has been really great for me. It's very mentally empowering too, knowing I got the hardest part of my day out of the way by 9 o'clock. Doing that on a daily basis though. And then part of me has also tried other things where instead of doing it every day, I do it like 2 days a week and I just go deep, and that's my only priority for those days. And that gives me 5 other days a week to focus on other endeavors, creating content, personal things, passion projects. I have a small business outside of this, etc. And so I'm trying to find the middle ground. I kind of like doing a little bit every day, and it keeps you super fresh and just like that momentum. But I also think that giving yourself a set timeline of, hey, you only have 2 days, you have to spend $10,000 a week, get it done, I think is also kind of a nice thing too, because then it gives me, again, like I said, 5 days to focus on other things. By the way, the reason that in case you're like wondering, why do you worry about how much you spend every month? Shouldn't it be how much you make? Well, what happens is you've done this for a while. Again, I made a video on this. I'm not gonna go too in depth, but basically you can reverse engineer your profit goals. If I spend this on average, then my sales are gonna be this, and then my profit margin is typically this. So you're just reverse engineering, plugging and playing, and you kind of just follow the script and everything else just trickles down and falls into place. So that's it. That's what I got for you. That's what happened in August. That's where I'm trying to go into the future and really attempting to hit that regularly scheduled 10 grand profit per month. I know if I follow the spend goal and continue doing what I'm doing, it will happen and it will fall into place. The power of reverse engineering and consistency. So I'm Jonathan. This is Duke Does Amazon. Questions, comments, topics you want to see, put them below. We're on Instagram as well at Duke Does Amazon. Take action. Be willing to be a beginner. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for being here. Take care.